It has become increasingly apparent that many of my House Republican colleagues want to jam big tax cuts for the wealthy, the well-off, and the well-connected down the throats of the American people and try to pay for those tax cuts, which will not benefit everyday Americans, by cutting Social Security and Medicare. This is not a hypothetical, it's not hype, it's not hyperbole. It's happening before our very eyes because extreme MAGA Republicans in the House are telling us publicly and repeatedly that's exactly what they plan to do to the American people. If the Republicans go down the road of the GOP tax scam 2.0, I'm confident there will be no Democratic support. We're not whipping on the National Defense Authorization Act. It's a member-to-member, case-by-case analysis in terms of people making decisions as to what is the right thing to do. There's a lot of positive things in the National Defense Authorization Act that were negotiated in a bipartisan way, and there are some troubling provisions in a few areas as well. I haven't taken an official position yet. I'm still evaluating the four corners of the National Defense Authorization Act, and I'll make a decision in advance of going to the floor later on today.
Have you spoken with President-elect Trump since the election, and given the margin in January that the Republican majority will have, sort of how do you see your relationship with him?
I've not spoken to him directly, but do anticipate at some point in the next few weeks, either prior to the 20th or January 20th or thereafter, we'll have a conversation. And as I've repeatedly and publicly indicated, we are prepared to find common ground with the incoming administration on any issue, particularly as it relates to the most decisive ones to emerge from this election, which in our view is to deal with the high cost of living. The American people are correct that the deck has been stacked against everyday Americans for decades in ways that undermine the ability for far too many Americans to access the American dream. This is a problem that should be decisively addressed by Democrats and Republicans, the House and the Senate, and the incoming administration. But because the system and the deck has been stacked against everyday Americans for far too long, there's a lot more work that needs to be done. And if the incoming administration is committed to doing that work, then they will find partners in the House Democratic Caucus.